Hi everyone, I'm Angela and welcome to Crafting with Angela. Today we're going to be making faux vintage tape that we can use in junk journaling. What you need is various rolls of this sellotape, sticky back plastic, scotch tape depending on what you have. So I have a couple of rolls here, different sizes. You will need some alcohol inks, so I have a couple of different alcohol inks here. I have a brown, an orange and a Valencia. It just depends, the names depend on what brand they are. I will use some wax paper. Need a pair of scissors, and then I'm also going to be using this to mix my alcohol inks together. So this is just a cylindrical acrylic block for stamping, and then this is a foam, keep that to the side, this is a foam circle, felt circle. That's the kind of thing you put under your furniture, but it's really good at mixing the colours together. So I just stick that on the back like that, and that's what I'm going to use to blend it. So now this is a new roll of wax paper. Basically this is so that you have an idea of where it's going to, or what it's sticking to, so you don't have to keep it. When you use the polypocket or a piece of acetate, it's great, but you then have to keep it in that sort of A4 size. What I'm going to do now is cut out a piece of this, sorry, off camera here, but it's difficult to cut a big piece of paper on camera. Okay, so here we go. That's a piece of wax paper. All I'm going to do now is come in with my rolls of tape. Cut the end of that off. Don't often use sellotape in the craft when crafting, so this is ones from when I was wrapping Christmas presents, so it's a bit messy. But what I'm wanting to do now is just come in and press it down. And then cut it down. So I'm wanting to go most of the length of the paper, leaving a bit of a gap between them, just depending on how much you want to get onto your, much of the tape you want to get done. So I'm going to put several rolls of this thicker tape. Remember that once you have the tape coloured, you can cut it down. It doesn't have to stay this size once it's made. Okay, you just need to, that's probably really difficult to see. I'm going to put one more piece of thicker tape on here. It can be really difficult to see where your tape is lying. What you do want to do is make sure you're getting it flat, because if you have any lumps or bumps in it, it will end up looking or coming out in the final product. Then I'm going to come in with this thinner tape. And just cut off that piece there. I'm going to turn this around, and that's just so I'm working towards me again, so not halfway up the page. So it can be difficult to see where you've already laid tape. So I work on the principle that it's better to have gaps that you don't have tape on than to try and overload it and end up making a mistake that you wish you hadn't. I'm not going to go right up to the edge, just to make sure we don't put the alcohol ink that close. Okay. Right. Once that's done with the tape and the scissors, I don't know if you can see, but if I try to turn that up into the light, hopefully you can see there's 5 rows of the thicker tape and 4 rows of the thinner tape. And then that's the worst of the work done. I am just shaking this ink. So this is just a brown alcohol ink, and all I'm going to do is trying to remember roughly where your tape is. Okay, you're just wanting to come along like that. I'm going to come in and use the foam dauber. Even if it's a homemade foam dauber, come in and just try and get it spread out along the tape. So what you're trying to do is just going to colour each of the tapes like this. And you can see there are some places where I haven't attached it down tightly and the alcohol ink is starting to get underneath it. I don't mind because that just to me adds to the vintage look of it. Just going to come in and add a couple more pieces. Make sure you add the ink to the tape and not to the wax paper. And I'm going to come in as well with this Valencia. It's just a different colour. That's all we're wanting to do is kind of, we're wanting this tape here a browny orangey, giving it a vintage tint. Add a bit more brown in here while I'm working on this. So we're getting a good mixture of colour. We don't want just the orange or just the brown. You also don't want to work it too much, especially with your foam blender, because it will start to absorb your colour. Have one piece up here that doesn't seem to be holding any colour. if you want, you can come in after this dries and play around with it some more. Personally, I just like to leave that, and all you need to do now is leave that overnight, and we'll come back and look at it in the morning and see how it has dried, and hopefully it will have that vintage look to it. Okay, so I have left this overnight to dry. It's the next morning now, and we can see now that it is dried, and we're getting a really nice pattern through this. So all I do now is come in with my scissors. I'm literally going to cut down between the tape. You don't have to do this. I just find it difficult to save the really big pieces of tape, so I like to cut them down like this, and then it almost gives me like a roll of tape. And this is much easier to store, much easier to remember what it is as well. Okay, so I'll cut this up into the strips. I'll continue to cut the rest of this up off screen, but what I want to do is show you exactly how I would use this tape. So I had a video recently, it was a masterboard of how to make tags and whatnot using book pages. It may have been the video that was really bad audio quality on it. I am looking to redo that video, so if you haven't seen it yet, please keep an eye out for the new version of it that's coming through. But this was just a piece of cardstock that I had glued various pieces of paper. This is from music paper, maps, napkins on, and then I come on and stamped a couple of random bits and pieces around the place. And what I wanted to show you is one of the ways you could use this to sort of emphasize that this is vintage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a pair of scissors, and I'm going to cut a slit, a very small slit over here. Now this is a pocket, so the idea is that you would glue down these three bottom sides and leave the piece with the notch at the top. Then you glue it down there and you'll be able to stick stuff behind it in your junk journal, and that's still what this is going to be used for. But what I'm going to do now is I've cut that tiny slip there. I'm just going to come in with my scissors and kind of in fact that does it perfectly, try and get a bit of edge to that so that when it's stuck in it looks like you know, it's got a bit of edge behind it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a piece of the small tape. Try to find the end of it. I'm just going to cut a strip of this off. There is a bit at the end here that didn't get covered particularly well, so I'm going to take that piece off. Okay, and then just come in here and stick it down like that and roll it over the edge. And all we're doing here is giving the idea that there had been an issue on that edge. We've sealed it with tape. It's gone all the way through. It is still sticky because it's proper sellotape, sticky tape, but it just has that vintage look on the front. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed making the faux vintage tape with me.